Republicans are revolting against Donald Trump right now. And I don't just mean the MAGA supporters who are furious that he's broken his no new wars promise, outraged that he's driven up their costs, or angry that he's still hiding the Epstein files. This guy breaks a lot of promises, doesn't he? But it's not just them. Republicans in Congress are now rebelling too, to such an extent that Donald Trump has declared a national emergency in a desperate attempt to protect himself as Republicans work behind the scenes to strip away the power he's clinging to. We're going to break it all down. But before we do, if you could quickly leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel because it really helps support our work. And don't go anywhere, because we're not only covering this Republican revolt, we're also talking about Epstein later in the video. But first, let's start with why Republicans are revolting. And Chris Murphy explained it perfectly when talking about Greenland right here.
So what you are essentially talking about here is the United States going to war with NATO. The United States going to war with Europe. I kind of can't believe that I'm going to talk to you about the consequences of invading Greenland, but I am, because you have to take Trump seriously now. Nobody thought that we were going to be invading Venezuela or running their country a few months ago, and now we are. So he says he wants Greenland. He says he's keeping the military option on the table. So let's just talk about what that means. Here's what you need to know. It's sort of a basic thing. Greenland is a part of Denmark. Denmark is a NATO country. And the NATO treaty says that if any member is attacked, then all the other members have to come to their defense. So what you are essentially talking about here is the United States going to war with NATO. The United States going to war with Europe. You're talking about the US and France being at war with each other over Greenland. We can't sort of sugarcoat this. Like, that is what we're talking about here. Now, every NATO country would have to make a decision whether they were going to rush troops to Greenland to fight America. Some maybe wouldn't, some might. Who in the United States of America wants a war between the United States and Europe over Greenland? And Donald Trump, he just sees the world in terms of real estate, right? He's not trying to fix any of your problems. He just wants a ballroom. He wants a big land mass that he probably thinks is a lot bigger than it actually is because he looks at the wrong map projection. But you're talking about war between the United States and Europe. And so it's kind of insane that we have to explain this to him and to the American public. But understand that that's where we're at right now. The President of the United States entertaining an attempt to take Greenland by military force, which, by definition, might end up putting the United States in a shooting war with France.
Donald Trump went from no new wars, which was one of the bigger lies that he told on the campaign trail, to I want to be a wartime president for a very obvious reason. One, Donald Trump knows he's going to die soon. Praise be martial law. And he said, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I hope that's not offensive to anyone. Like, he doesn't care if 50,000 people die because he cuts their health care. So, putting that aside, Donald Trump obviously wants some legacy to leave behind. It's the reason he's concerned with the Nobel Prize and putting his name on buildings and whatever. But Donald Trump also wants to be a wartime president because he thinks it gives him absolute power. He said it to the New York Times. Donald Trump said, "Oh, I'm not governed by international law. I'm governed by my own morality," which is an oxymoron because Trump doesn't have that. And Republicans understand that, and it is why they are getting in his way. So before we get into the national emergency that Donald Trump wants to declare and why he's doing so purportedly, we got to start with the biggest Republican pissing him off. Trump, 79, explodes at GOP senator in profanity-filled call. Donald Trump laid into Republican Senator Susan Collins in an exploitive-laden phone call after she voted against one of his top priorities. The president reportedly made a profanity-laced call to the vulnerable Republican senator on Thursday. Sources told The Hill Collins was one of the 5 GOP senators to join Democrats in advancing a resolution on the War Powers Act from committee to the floor, which passed in a 52-47 vote earlier in the day. So Donald Trump is livid. Susan Collins is screwing up his plan to, I guess, be a military-style dictator. That's what he wants. Or I guess not invade Greenland, and instead give each Greenlander $1 million that's being floated right now. That'll really make groceries cheaper. Great decision, Donald. But he is obviously furious about the fact that he can't go into Greenland, that he can't expand his authoritarian project and taking everything he wants out of Venezuela. So right now, Donald Trump has resorted to whatever power he thinks he has left and is making this shocking move. Trump declares national emergency to shield Venezuelan oil cache. Donald Trump declared a national emergency to shield Venezuelan oil revenue held by the U.S. government from seizure by private creditors, framing it as a critical move to U.S. national security and regional stability. The big picture control of Venezuelan oil, some $2.5 billion worth, is now a cornerstone of the White House's strategy in the Western Hemisphere, and an opening for U.S. companies in wake of Nicolas Maduro's capture. So Donald Trump is trying to blow this up into a massive issue, and there are a few reasons for that. One of them is obviously because he wants everyone to forget about the Epstein files. And like I said, stick around because I want to get into some breaking news on that from Lawrence O'Donnell and one of our favorites on this show, Senator Sheldon Whitehouse. But Trump also wants to make it seem like Republicans supporting the War Powers Resolution, who are simply trying to limit his ability to act outside the Constitution, which is literally their job, are somehow undermining America's national security. Right now, he's scrambling to build that narrative. He's reportedly screaming on the phone at Republican members of Congress and the Senate. He's raging on Truth Social saying they should never be elected again, which is ironic because he desperately needs Susan Collins in the Senate if he wants any chance of pushing Supreme Court nominees in the second half of his term. To that, I say, go ahead, Donald. Knock her out politically if you want. That'd be great. Graham Plattner. See you in the Senate. But Trump is trying to spin this as being in America's national security interest, insisting we need to take the oil, a phrase he keeps repeating even though he clearly doesn't understand it. It would take at least a decade. And by us, he really means ExxonMobil and other oil companies who will get rich while it does nothing for regular people. It would require massive infrastructure funded by your tax dollars in an unstable region, and it's not even guaranteed to happen. That's why this whole take the oil plan is so ridiculous. It's expensive, risky, and slow. But Trump sees it as a political tool to claim we'll get rich. Everything will get cheaper, and he'll unleash American energy. Even though prices have only gone up, and he's actively killing green energy projects and jobs like offshore wind. So this isn't about security or helping Americans. It's about Trump using this to expand his authoritarian project and distract us from, you guessed it, Jeffrey Epstein. Which is why the new information Senator Sheldon Whitehouse just shared with Lawrence O'Donnell is so important.
Well, they've produced a little over 12,000 documents out of over 2 million documents that they say they still need to review and redact. So, they've been at this in theory for over a year. They came into office promising full disclosure of the Epstein files and that thousands of FBI agents were working on this. So the idea that they had to start from zero and could only get 12,000 documents out once they knew that this law was going to be passed and violated the terms of the law, violated even the report requirement for a report 15 days after the production date, suggests something really went wrong there. And the Inspector General is the person best positioned in the Department of Justice to take a look into whether this was incompetence, whether this was deliberate, whether this was misbehavior. What on earth happened to take this top priority of FBI Director Patel and this top priority of Attorney General Bondi and this top priority of President Trump and not be ready when the day came to actually release the documents. So we've asked the Inspector General to take a look into it. As you pointed out, this is a bipartisan request, and it includes the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, Senator Dick Durbin. So I think we have a good chance of getting some attention to it.
Over in the House, the idea of a subpoena for Les Wexner, the billionaire who supported Jeffrey Epstein for many, many years financially, for reasons no one could quite understand why he needed anything from Jeffrey Epstein that was worth paying for. That kind of testimony that no one has obtained from someone like that can really be a breakthrough in this investigation.
Yes. And if the Trump administration had been the least bit serious about getting to the bottom of the Epstein scandal, this is the kind of thing that the Department of Justice and the FBI could have been looking into. The tell here is that over a year later, it took Democratic pressure in the House from the minority to get a subpoena issued, rather than this being something the Department of Justice went ahead and did. It's reminiscent of the Senate Finance Committee under Chairman Ron Wyden, ranking member now Ron Wyden, getting the information about the billions of dollars that flowed through Epstein accounts to foreign countries, to women, mysteriously, producing what are called suspicious activity reports that go to the Department of Justice.
We've said it over and over on this show. Follow the money. Keep following the money, because that's what exposes everything. It leads straight to the people who, as J.P. Morgan executives themselves described, were sanitizing Epstein's financial records. It exposes more of the associates tied to this criminal network, the same criminal cabal that, as we recently learned from Robert Garcia, had girls being trafficked out of Mar-a-Lago. Following the money is what will explain so much, and it's exactly why Donald Trump is absolutely terrified right now. There has been a flood of news these past few days, and yeah, it's been a brutal start to the year, so it makes sense that the Epstein story has gotten drowned out a bit. But nothing has changed. Pam Bondi is still breaking the law. Donald Trump is still breaking the law. Todd Blanche is still breaking the law. Kash Patel is still breaking the law. They are all obstructing justice, and they know it. Thanks for watching. And if you stuck around at the end, you can drop the blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I will see you soon.